The truth is that what motivates you, what drives you to be the best version of yourself. I had an epiphany. Being active now has become just like a part of my daily routine. This is an interesting question because this has been really difficult for me, if I'm being totally honest. I thrive off of being stressed. Hello you guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Patty if you're new here, and welcome back to another vlogmas-ish video. I thought I'd walk you guys through my current makeup routine while answering a couple of your guys' questions. I posted a question box on Instagram, I asked for questions on TikTok, and I also did post in the community tab here on YouTube for the first time. So I'm gonna go through those while we just do some makeup, and I have a little cafecito right here. It's freezing in my house right now, so I needed a hot coffee instead of an iced coffee. But let's go ahead and just jump into this. I'm gonna start off by doing my brows with a little bit of this Benefit brow gel. I love this stuff so much. All the questions right here. And the first question is, what made you want to do motivational, empowering videos? I really love them and I want to know how you came about to them. First of all, thank you so much. I really appreciate your guys' kind words always. When I saw this question, I found it so interesting because I don't think that I ever saw myself, and even now I think I'm able to see my videos could be motivational or empowering, but I never started creating content with the intention of necessarily being motivational or empowering. I share a lot of daily vlogs on TikTok, especially days in my life, things like that, productive vlogs. And honestly, when I started creating content in 2022, this December 31st, will be 2 years of me creating content. I just wanted to have a little bit of a creative outlet. I always wanted to do YouTube videos, actually, ever since I was, like 10 years old, watching YouTube videos, watching creators like Desi Perkins, Katie, Ingrid Nilsson, Blair and Elle Fowler, like those were my OGs, Bubs Beauty. I always really wanted to create videos like that. And when I got older, I tried to make some YouTube videos and I never stuck with it. Also, I don't know that I necessarily needed to be making videos as a 15-year-old and posting on the internet, but I think that finally that day, that week in 2022, I was like, you know what? Why not? And TikTok was a very easy way for me to get into doing it because shorter form content is it's easier to shoot, it's easier to post, like just the quickness of it. And that's really how I started. That's really what made me want to do it. And it became a really fun way for me to kind of get through my gap year before starting law school, which we will get into a little bit later because I got quite a few questions about that. And yeah, it became a really great way to connect and share the healthy habits that I've formed and created. And as a result, I noticed that people found it motivational. And that's something that makes me really happy, and I'm really glad that it's able to motivate and inspire other people. I never viewed my lifestyle, I guess, as motivational or empowering, if that makes sense. Now I'm gonna go in with the Milk Cloud Glow Primer. I will have all of the products listed in the description, but the next question is, what motivates you? What drives you to be the best version of yourself? I think that's something that I have talked about before, is that I am very much a perfectionist. When I set out to do something, I really aim to do it to the best of my ability, and I want to make myself proud. I think that I, of course, want to make the people in my life that are closest to me proud. That does bring me joy and contentment, but I think that I am very self-motivated and I'm very driven by my own desire to succeed in whatever it is that I'm setting out to do. I need some lip balm and my camera's dying even though it was charging. I am really grateful to have a very strong support system, and I have parents that honestly I think would support me no matter what I chose to do, within reason obviously, but they have never pushed me in one direction or another when it comes to school or career and things like that. And so I know that me choosing one path or another wouldn't necessarily disappoint them. And so I think that my motivation is very much intrinsic. I do also know that I can be a little bit prideful. So I do want to be able to say like, hey, look at this thing that I did. Like when it comes to things like doing a half marathon, I really wanted to do that for myself, but also part of it was like, now I can say like I did this thing, and I am trying to detach from that part of my personality because I know that I can be driven by pride. I think that it tends to not be in situations like that of like doing something to make other people, to impress other people, and more so being afraid of doing something. For example, leaving law school because what will people think? And what will people that really I don't care about their opinion, what would those sorts of people think? And so yeah, I don't know, that my answer got a little bit convoluted, but I would say what motivates me is myself, my own desire to succeed, my own like also my dreams for my life. Like I also have very high standards for myself, and so that's all part of like what motivates me and keeps me going and drives me to be sort of like the best version of myself. I want to be healthy, I want to be happy, I want to be successful, I want to be all of those things for a long time. And so I think that encourages me to be the best version of myself, and whatever that means every single day, because that might look a little bit different from one day to the next. Going in with some foundation, this is the NARS Light Reflecting Foundation. I also got asked what keeps me motivated to stay active, and I do want to answer that separately because I think it's a little bit different. Similar, of course, but I think that staying active is kind of has this other like quality to it. Being active now has become such just like a part of my daily routine, my weekly routine. I get antsy when I don't work out. I have a harder time falling asleep when I don't work out or walk, get in some sort of daily movement. I don't work out 7 days a week, but it is just so ingrained in me because I did competitive cheerleading from the ages of 5 to 12, and then I started lifting weights at the age of 13. I started competitive powerlifting when I was 15, and I did that on and off until I was like 20 years old. And ever since then, I've just had the habit of working out, exercising, being active ingrained in me. And I would be remiss to say that like what my body looks like is not a part of it. And I will refrain from talking about that too much because I think that body image and working out for the physical results is a little bit of a sensitive subject. It is even a little bit of a sensitive subject for myself because I go through periods of, you know, having a better or worse sense of body image. There are times where I need to disconnect what my body looks like from what movement I want to be doing or feel that I need to be doing. But I think overall, the motivation to stay active is all the things that I already mentioned, and a big part of it is that it is a habit. But in times like now where I'm not really feeling motivated, it's like I need this for my mental health because it also helps me tremendously mentally. I feel like it's completely like mind, body, soul, like when it comes to being and staying active for me. I personally love lifting weights. I like trying out new things. I think that running is something that is hugely mental for me and helps me to clear my mind. And so it's not something that I feel I want to be doing all the time, but I find that it has been a really great outlet for me. And Pilates has become a very social thing for me. I've made friends through my Pilates studio, and so now it's like to go to Pilates and get a coffee with one of my friends or my sister-in-law. And so I love that aspect of it as well. I'm gonna go in with the Hourglass concealer. The next question is, what drew you to being a lawyer and what made you not want to be a lawyer anymore? This is a little bit complicated for me to answer. Like, what drew me to being a lawyer? I think I know the truth. The truth is that my life wasn't moving fast enough for me after I graduated college. And I believe that I have talked about this before. I can't remember like how in depth I went about it in the TikTok that I made talking about leaving law school, but essentially I graduated college. I walked in August because of the pandemic. I graduated in 2021, so we didn't walk until August because everything was just sort of postponed. And I had been applying to jobs for about a month at that point. So let's say like July to August. And I am very type A, I'm very driven, I'm very goal-oriented, and I wasn't getting hired. Mind you, it had been like 3 weeks of applying to jobs. And so I was getting really frustrated and down on myself, and going on LinkedIn and seeing other people getting jobs. It seemed like the dream job. And this was jobs in the entertainment industry because I went to film school for undergrad. It was like a university, but I studied screenwriting. Anyways, from one day to the next, I see it in my journal from that year. I was feeling really discouraged. I was writing about this in my journal. And all the journal entries up until then were talking about like my dream job in the entertainment industry. I had written about being frustrated with the job search, the job hunt, like I wasn't getting the interviews I was expecting I would get, and things weren't going how I anticipated. And I was like, what about law school? More school. I've always been good at school. I know I can do well in school. And so I made it make sense for myself. I had already decided that I didn't want to be a screenwriter and that I wanted to be working more so in creative development as maybe like a creative executive, something like that. And so it wasn't like a total departure from that, at least in my head. And so I thought, well, maybe I can blend the two and do entertainment law. And then that could be the way that I go about it. I decided, okay, if I'm gonna go to law school, I want to do the best of the best. Like I need to do it like, I really don't know. It's just my personality. And so I was like, okay, so I am gonna go to a T14. I studied for like a few weeks and took the September LSAT. Didn't do well because I didn't really give myself a chance to study. And took it again, did better. I started working in September in the entertainment industry, but I was already like, I'm gonna be applying to law school. Like this is just for now to keep me going while I'm applying to law school. And I submitted my applications like way at the end of the cycle, like in January. And I got into some really great schools, but they weren't T14 schools and it wasn't my top school. My top choice was UCLA. And it just was like, they have a great entertainment law program and all of those things. And then I learned about big law and I was like, well, if I'm gonna go to law school and I'm gonna be a lawyer, I'm gonna work in big law. And just like prestige, prestige, prestige. Like it's gotta be this. If I'm gonna do it this way, I need to go all the way and be the best and do the best thing, choose the best path. All self-imposed. And then I didn't get in and I thought, well, I could go to one of these schools. I could go to like a top 50 school, which is not what I wanted to do. Why did you apply to those schools then? But you could do that or take loans out for a school you're not really stoked on and see what happens. Or you can apply again, wait another year, and I know we're gonna get in. I decided to apply again. I applied again and I got into several T14s, including my dream school. And so I went there. Actually, I think that Georgetown wasn't technically a T14 that year because UCLA booted it, something like that. So I got into Georgetown, UCLA, and Berkeley Law, and those were like three that I was like, oh my gosh, like this is incredible. Prestige, prestige, prestige. And I chose UCLA, and my camera's dying, so I'm gonna charge it real quick, and then we will get into how I decided I no longer wanted to be a lawyer. Camera's charged, so apologies if the angle changed or the lighting or anything. But to answer the second half of that question, how did you realize you didn't want to be a lawyer anymore? Basically, I had an epiphany on Easter, which is coincidental, nothing religious. I am not religious, but it happened to be that day. It was a Sunday. And I feel like I had sort of this like out-of-body experience where I was looking down on myself and I was like, how did we get here? And so I did sort of that reflection, realizing how I came to the decision to go to law school and end up in that position. At that point, I was already like a semester and a half into the first year. And it was the first time I ever had those feelings. And I immediately was like, oh, I chose the wrong path. Like this is not what I was supposed to do. And this is not the life that I want. And I actually had an in-person interview for what should have really been like my dream internship at the time. And I remember distinctly being asked that next day in the interview, you have all of these like cool things on your resume. What are you doing here? And of course I had like the right answer, but in that moment I was like, oh my God, like what am I doing here? Then, you know, I started questioning. I was already in therapy. I started unpacking this in therapy, and then, you know, thinking about my options. I was certain that I wanted to take a leave of absence. And then finals started, and finals in law school are rough. It is rough. I kind of miss it because of the like adrenaline and stress of it all. I'm a little bit insane in that way, but it's rough. And I was like, there's no way I go through all of this not to finish. Like 2 more years, it's fine. I'll just finish it and then I can pivot. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna apply to try and get like a 2L summer big law position. And I did. I was working over the summer, I was applying, and I was getting discouraged. I wasn't hearing back. And then finally I started hearing back, and I had an interview with the law firm that was like my ideal law firm. Then I had my interview and I was like, this is not what I'm meant to do. Like, this is not the life that I want to live. And I did, like, in all of these months of ruminating and thinking and soul searching, like, I thought about different avenues that I could go to, but I told you guys my reason for going into law school. So it was never about, like, I really had this passion for the law, the legal field, or whatever. It was that, like, I had a goal and I had attached all of this, like, prestige and importance on this type of job, this particular path. And so I was dead set on pursuing that. And that was ultimately not the life that I want to live. And yeah, that's basically like the short answer. And it was like I knew what I needed to do, which was leave law school. It was just very hard to come to actually doing it. But I did. And I know that it was the right decision to make. Next step is blush. I'm going in with the Rhode Pocket Blush in the shade Sleepy Girl, and I'm putting that on the back of my hand. The next question is, what has helped you handle redirection post law school? This is an interesting question because this has been really difficult for me, if I'm being totally honest, and I think has a lot to do with how I've been feeling over the last couple of months. And this is not something that I have talked about at all on any of my platforms, and it's not really something that I want to talk about a ton yet, I think because I'm still in it. But the number one thing that has helped is therapy. I have had a couple of moments. I have had 2 moments very recently, and it's basically between November and now, where I have felt like, oh my gosh, did I make the right decision? I know that I did, but not having a clear sense of direction is very scary for someone who has always known exactly what they're gonna do next and what their plan is. And I don't really know right now, and that's scary. But I think that therapy and having done all that introspection to understand how I came to the decision to go to law school has helped me to handle redirection after law school, because I don't want to repeat the same mistakes again of jumping into something because life wasn't moving fast enough for me and I wasn't doing something with my life in the way that I expected. To be transparent with you guys, I have not talked about this at all, again, anywhere, but I've been applying to jobs for the last couple of months. I get questions on TikTok like, what are you gonna do next? Like, are you doing content creation full time? Like, what, like, people wanna know, and I understand the curiosity, but it's difficult to answer when I don't know, and I don't want to, like, I never wanna jinx anything. I'll tell you guys because I feel like not a ton of people watch my YouTube videos, and also, like, if you got to this point in the video, here's the truth, you know? I have been applying to jobs for the last couple of months, and I have been very selective with the jobs that I am applying to, which is a privilege to be able to do that. I live at home. I have the privilege and the ability to do so, but I'm also turning 26 next year. And so, like, it's scary, right? Like, what then? I am just really, like, surrendering to the universe, I think. I'm not doing nothing. I am taking actions towards figuring out what my next step in life is every single day. And in the meantime, I am doing content creation full time. But something that I always tell people when they do ask me if I'm doing content creation full time is, had I been working a traditional 9 to 5, I would not have quit to pursue content creation full-time. I love routine. I love consistency. I want that. And yeah, I just don't know what that's going to look like. And I'm open to a couple of different industries, and I'm trying not to be too selective, but also not be not selective enough that I end up in a job where, you know, I'm not really happy because it isn't exactly what I would like to be doing or something that I really could see myself enjoying. One of my law school friends asked me, what is the best thing about no longer being in law school? I will say the best thing about no longer being in law school is not the lack of stress, is not any of that. To be very superficial, it's the fact that my cystic acne has cleared. That was one of the biggest indicators to me that I had made the right decision. I had been experiencing painful cystic acne for the first time in my life, starting in August 2023, which is when I started law school. And from like August 2023 to July 2024, I could not figure out for the life of me what was going on. Was it something that I was eating? Was it something that I was using on my skin? Was it something that I was doing? Was I sweating too much from running? Like, what is going on? I didn't really have acne as a teenager. I am convinced it was stress. I am convinced that my body was trying to tell me that like something is not right with this lifestyle of yours. And so that is probably the best thing for me because I can handle the stress. The stress is not why I left law school. I thrive off of being stressed. The next question is advice for someone graduating college. I'm graduating next week and I am so anxious. First of all, congratulations. You've already graduated by now. I'm not saying anyone's names in case you don't want like your name put on blast, but you know who you are and congratulations. That is such a huge accomplishment. I'm gonna fill in my brows with the Anastasia Brow Wiz. My biggest piece of advice is to not rush the process of figuring out what's next. I feel like I've already talked about this at length in this video, but I think that's what led to me ending up on a path that was not necessarily the right one for myself. I also have no regrets because I would not be right here, right now, had I not made those decisions. And so I'm glad for it. I learned so much from that journey, but I would say don't rush anything and allow yourself the space to figure out what's next. I know that not everyone has the privilege to do that maybe in the way that I am allowing myself now, but there is no rush. Also, do not compare yourself to others. It is very easy to fall into that trap, but as cliche as it is, comparison is the thief of joy. And we are not made to have the same exact life as every other person around us. And so embrace the uniqueness of your own journey. And it might be hard at times, but just try to not compare yourself, try not to be too hard on yourself, and allow yourself the space to try things, fail, try again, you know, and also like celebrate yourself. This is a huge accomplishment. Like I said, congratulations once again. You guys, my camera died again. If only you knew how much time was in between that last question and now. And like, I've been trying to do other things I need to do, but also not mess up my makeup in between steps because it's not set or anything. But anyways, go ahead and do a little bit of powder. This is the Makeup by Mario setting powder in the shade L2. The next question is, I'd love to know, where do you see yourself in 10 years? I really like this question. It's also a little bit scary because 10 years, like, that sounds like a long time from now. I'm 25 right now. So in 10 years, I'll be 35. And it'll be interesting if, you know, like when I'm 35 to look back on this and see what does my life look like compared to what did I say in this video. I think that if I've learned anything from the last 4 or 5 years of my life is that things don't go to plan. As I grow and evolve, I'm trying to remind myself of that and not get too attached to any one idea. But I do have goals for myself and I do have ideas of where I would like to be. I think in 10 years, I would like to be married. I think I would like to be a parent. I don't know though. So like, we'll see if it's possible, and if it's not, I don't think that is the end of my world. That is not something that I've ever put too much attachment onto. But if I am going to be a parent, I would love to be one by 35. 10 years, I see myself having gone back to Italy. I see myself having traveled to Japan. I see myself having visited more of the national parks in the US. I see myself living in a home that I own and that beautiful and feels cozy and just like feels like home. I see myself happy. I see myself working in a job that I really love. And like I said, I don't really know right now what industry that is in. I have an idea. I see myself continuing to do all of the things that I love today. Things like baking, things like reading, being active. I'm gonna set my face real quick with the Charlotte Tilbury setting spray before we answer the next question. I got two similar questions. One being, what are your top 3 book recs from this year? And then the other being, favorite book you read lately. So I'm gonna blend the two. I will answer like top 3 book recs. I haven't really been reading much lately, if I'm being totally honest. But I will say my number 1 book from the year is definitely My Brilliant Friend by Elena Ferrante. And I would cheat and put 3 of those in the top 3, but I'll just put the entire series as my number 1. I really fell in love with Elena Ferrante's writing, and that series, the world, the Neapolitan novels really like stole my heart, and that's definitely number 1. I'm going through my Goodreads right now, and you guys, I didn't really read much this year. I guess Funny Story by Emily Henry, I did really love that one. And this doesn't feel accurate. I feel like I read other books that aren't logged on my Goodreads. Did I really not? 2024 was not a good reading year for me, in the sense that like I did not read as much as I wanted to. Obviously up until July, there was no time for me for leisure reading. I also had like a really insane commute when I was in law school, so I didn't have a lot of free time. But I'm like trying to think of what else I read. Honestly, I'm gonna just say, I'm gonna cheat and I'm just gonna say the Neapolitan novels and then Funny Story by Emily Henry, which, you guys, in 2025, I need to set some like stricter reading goals. We're gonna have like a 2025 reading goal, more frequent check-ins in the books to hold me accountable. Let me know, what were your guys' favorite books from the year? So that way I could keep those in my book recommendations, and then hopefully I can read through those as kind of a starting point. Oh, you know what? I had and I don't have it logged. I'm just so confused. Like, my Goodreads is not accurate. Let's answer the next question while doing some mascara. This is the YSL Lash Clash Waterproof Mascara, my absolute holy grail. What activities do you do with your partner to keep the relationship fun and interesting? So I will say like the main thing that I think helps to keep us like connected is that we have a weekly date night. That doesn't mean that every week we are going out to a restaurant, but we also only really see each other like once a week for the most part, unless like when I was on some sort of break from school or when he's gonna be on break from school. We are very intentional about spending quality time together, and when we're together, like I'm not on my phone, he's not on his phone. We are really like there with one another. And we do different things, like we love trying new restaurants. So I feel like we'll try a new restaurant at least once a month. We also love going on walks. I also feel like we could just talk for hours and like never run out of things to talk about, which is so crazy to me because we've been together for 8 years and we've known each other for like 10. Yeah, we're never running out of things to talk about ever in life, I don't think. But yeah, we like to try new things. Sometimes we'll cook a new recipe. I love something like making pizza together. It's hands-on. Like I said, going to new places. Hikes, I love hikes. I love getting out in nature. We try and have trips to look forward to as well. Like we can't feasibly go on a trip all the time, but like every couple of months to kind of get us out of our day-to-day, but also like I don't feel like we're stuck in any sort of like routine or rut ever because we don't live together. I think also the other thing is like we have our own lives outside of each other, so like we always have something to like bring to the other person to like share about and talk about and, you know, teach the other or something like that. And I think that's really important as well. Like, you need to be your own person outside of your partner. Then you guys can come together and just be like two amazing individual people together as like a united force. I also got a question that was like a couple of questions in one. I feel like I touched on all of the ones about like law school and things like that. But one of the questions was also, what do you do to unwind and recharge? I love to watch a little show, reading as well. I feel like I'm constantly recharging. Like I need, if for every one single like social interaction, I feel like I need 5 to 7 business days to recharge and just be like by myself and like all alone because I'm such an introvert. Also, really just like romanticizing my skincare in the evening. I don't rush through my nighttime skincare routine. Sometimes I do dread having to take off my makeup after like going out or something like that, but like my nighttime skincare routine is really just like a time for me to relax and unwind and start the process of like getting unready for the evening and recharging as well. Like I think that like what I mentioned earlier about being active, I feel like that helps to recharge me, my mind, my body, my soul. There's probably other things like I'm seeking more through like trying to find new hobbies and things like that. But yeah, that's like kind of the things that I do right now. Favorite iced latte recipe? Honestly, like a go-to is just 2 shots of espresso and almond milk, maybe a little bit of cinnamon. I love that. It's like classic. It's just simple, unsweetened. And then if I want to like switch it up, make it a little sweeter, have a flavor, I'll throw in a little bit of Chobani creamer. It's really simple, really easy, nothing fancy, but it gets the job done and it's tasty. The last question is tips on how to become a morning person. I feel like, again, it's a habit that you build, and it's a habit that I built many years ago, and it's kind of weird that it's been so long because in high school, like I was not a morning person at all. I hated waking up for school, and I think having things to look forward to in the morning, I also really value having time to myself before having to fulfill any sort of other obligations or show up, whether I was in school or if I was working, or right now where I'm working, but I am my own boss in a way and I work from home. I still do like to have some semblance of routine and be done with my morning routine by like 9-10 o'clock, so that way I'm ready to start filming, responding to emails, any sort of like administrative work or filming work that I need to do for the day. But I think the biggest thing is having a solid nighttime routine and going to bed early. I'm someone who needs my sleep, and so like I need to go to bed early if I want to wake up early. The other night when we went to see Interstellar, I went to bed at like 12 or 1. Honestly, for no good reason. I just like stayed up late. But it was like the next day I could not wake up as early as I typically would because I went to bed late on a weekday. I think having a solid nighttime routine and sticking to that nighttime routine will help you to become a morning person. But yeah, I think like having those little things to look forward to in the morning, but also really solidifying that nighttime routine makes all the difference in actually becoming a morning person and sticking to it. And then before you know it, it becomes a habit, and then it's just second nature. Those are all the questions for today, you guys. And this is the finished makeup look. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to give it a like if you liked it and subscribe if you're not already. And I'll see you guys in the next Vlogmas video.